Welcome back to this Next Revolution special with psychologist and best-selling author Dr. Jordan Peterson. So, when I got your book, Dr. Peterson, the first rule that I turned to was the one about parenting. Perhaps that's mainly because I'm a parent myself, but also because I think it's such an important issue for all the things we're discussing. Tell us about your rule on parenting and your thoughts on how children are raised, how they are raised, and perhaps how they should be raised.
Don't let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Right.
Right. Well, it's a funny rule in a kind of harsh way again. The first part of it that's harsh is the frank admission that children can do things that make them dislikable.
Right.
Right, and that's something everyone knows, but no one wants to say. And the second part is that you as a parent, despite loving your children, might also not like them.
To strike any chords with the parents in the room?
So we're going to be frank about the situation. And so, well, so then the question then is, well, how do you deal with that? Because the truth of the matter is that if you are inclined upon occasion not to like your children, assuming that you're reasonably sane, and that's why it's useful to have a partner, because a partner can help keep you sane, right? The two of you, fragmented as you are, as individuals, might be able to come together and make one reasonable person. Right. And so that's the reasonable person that your child interacts with, and that person, a compound, is a proxy for the broader world. And so if your children are engaging in behavior that makes you dislike them, let's say after discussion with your partner, then the probability that other people will dislike them for that behavior is very high. And you might say, well, so what? It's not your job to produce a child that everyone likes. Well, maybe you wouldn't say that. And that's actually wrong. That is exactly your job. So especially what you want to do is that by the time your child is 4, and there's actually a fairly critical stage of development between 2 and 4, you want your child to be socialized well enough so that they're very good at playing with other kids. Because kids socialize each other from 4 onward. And so if your child has learned how to play, has learned how to share, has learned how to engage in reciprocal interactions, to take turns in all of that, to behave in a civilized manner, to be able to tolerate a little bit of failure, a little bit of deprivation as they wait their turn, and is enthusiastic and spontaneous and trusting in a kind of non-naive way and not too bossy, all of those things, then other children will line up to play with him or her. And it's in play that children learn how to adapt to the entire world. And so the kids who at 4 can't integrate themselves into the play world get left farther and farther and farther behind, and they never catch up. So if your child isn't likable by other children, then you doom them to a life of comparative isolation. And then...
Sorry, can I just stop you there? Because that's, I think, the extension of this is what's so important, because, of course, it's nice if, children have the right kind of experiences and when they're children, but in a sense, why should we care? Well, the reason we should care is because this goes right the way through life, doesn't it?
Oh, yes.
Could you just talk to that a little bit? Why these foundational things matter so much for the whole of the rest of someone's life?
Well, because the children play games because they're practicing being human beings, adults even. They're practicing being adults. They make a little world in their pretend space, and then they act it out. And if they don't have an opportunity to engage in that, they never develop the sophisticated social skills, physical and cognitive, that enable them to do more and more and more and more complex things as they mature. And so you're definitely play lays the groundwork for successful adulthood. I mean, if you're working with people, partly what we're doing here insofar as this is going to go well is we're playing a little bit. We're playing along with the audience. We're playing talk show, Yes. There's a bit of a pretense about it, and hopefully we can do that in a way that's reciprocal, so that you have a good time and so that I have a good time and a meaningful time, and so the audience does as well. And that means that we've all learned how to play. And we can create a space then that's mutually engaging and meaningful, where something that's useful can happen. And that's what you want for your children. And you also want them to react to adults properly. And that means they have to treat adults with a certain amount of respect, not least because they're going to spend most of their life being adults. And so if you don't teach children that adults are to be respected, you're devaluing their entire future, right? And you're not giving them any reason to grow up. And then most adults have a soft spot for kids. And so kids are cute, and they'll give them the benefit of the doubt. And so if your kid is cute and bouncy and playful and and is open and reasonably respectful, then they'll see the best side of all the adults, and the adults will help them. And so then the whole world opens up to them. But if they're whiny and miserable and ungrateful and spoiled and selfish and cruel and deceitful and all of those things, then adults will smile at them falsely and shut them off. And everywhere they go, they'll be facing that.
And that's something that will, the consequences linger through life. I think we've got a question from our audience member, Adam.
Hey, how you doing? Love the show, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was raised with very conservative values, and I'm finding that being here in New York City, there's just a lot of leftist stuff everywhere with victimhood and things of that nature. So I want to know is how do you make it attractive for even smaller children to want to pick up those values of dignity and hard work?
Oh, well, one of the most effective ways to do that is to watch your children very, very carefully. And then when they do something that you regard as admirable in that vein, let them know and tell them exactly why. Like with a little kid, 2 or 3, not so verbal yet, that might be a pat, and you just say, look, good job, kid. Maybe they've managed to carry the cutlery to the table and, put it up top, and because they like to help. And so you can give them little tasks that are useful, and then that they're within their domain of competence, and then reward them. And not in a false way. Say, look, the table needed to be set. You brought a spoon and a fork over there, and you got it on the table. Good job. You're very helpful. And so what you want to do, and this is also what you want to do with your partner to some degree, is you want to watch your people very, very carefully. And then when they do something that you would like them to do more of, you tell them that they've done a good job, and you tell them why. Because one of the currencies that children run on is attention. They love attention. They'll do anything for attention. And so if you can give them attention when they do something you want, which requires real sharp vision, and you have to be consciously attempting to do this, then you can facilitate that movement into responsibility happily. They'll be thrilled to do it. I mean, you're going to have bumps with your kids, obviously, but there's nothing more powerful than focused, attentive, precise reward. And that isn't every child wins a trophy day. That's, you watch and you see when the child has done something that pushes them beyond their current limit. And you say, good work, kid, man. We could see a lot more of that. Way to be. And then they're all beaming away and thrilled about the situation. And that's a great thing to do.
Very good. Great advice. Thank you so much. Great question.